We next welcome Matt Neal, President International from Golin Harris, as the third of our PR leaders. If you look Matt up on Google, you'll see that he'd prefer to be on stage at Glastonbury rather than our stage, but we're really pleased that he's here. After 55 years, Golin Harris completely redesigned the agency. Matt is going to explain what happened.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to Special Annex over there. I should probably confess up front that I'm not a measurement expert in any sense. I've written no books, let alone on measurement. So I am supremely unqualified to speak to this impressive audience today. When Barry asked me if I could headline AMEC, or at least that's what I heard in my head, I said, surely our strategy leader, Greg Sendy, who has come up with some of the thinking that I'm going to massacre over the next 15 minutes, would be far better suited. And Greg, do you want to just stick your hand up again? Buy this man a drink this evening, because he will be crying at the bar after I've ruined all his great thinking. He sent me from Chicago this beautiful presentation, which I've cut into 15 minutes of superficiality. Anyways, I said this to Barry, and I said, if you do choose me, I'm just going to end up showing pictures of David Hasselhoff. And Barry diplomatically replied that today's conference was about trying to get more PR professionals, or communications people as we like to call ourselves, to make measurement a must-have. And that as a leader of a successful agency, like the two speakers before me, it is our responsibility to spread the word. So that's what I'm going to try and do, but I'm still going to try and work in the Hoff, as you'll see later. At school, as Kevin kind of alluded to, I dropped out of mathematics as soon as I could. I found English and grammar and literature fairly easy, but I had to work very hard to get my C at maths at 16. I think the same is true for many PR professionals. We love creativity, we love ideas, we love technology, we love the fact that we can reach millions of people in one post or an update. And unfortunately on Facebook now, it's completely advertising driven. It is utterly pointless for brands to operate on Facebook unless you have a media budget, because EdgeRank drops you right down to the bottom. But I think everyone in this room knows that unless you're creative or your idea is based on insight, then there's absolutely no point, because it's probably more likely to fail and not engage with people. Our industry generally underinvests when it comes to measurement compared to our digital, CRM, and advertising sisters. And even when we do, I think there are two main problems. Firstly, PR research is often outdated when released. And it doesn't help our clients make decisions in the real-time world that we live in. There are several large agencies that produce aircraft hangar-sized pieces of research that would fill this room, that are very impressive, particularly about looking back over time and continuing the theme from Kevin. I think we're more interested in helping clients to make decisions in the future. So how do we do that? Secondly, when our industry does take on measurement, I think we're guilty of leaving the creativity that we all love so much by the roadside. I was at a recent industry conference that was pretty heavily sponsored, and the speakers just kind of stood up and read their white papers. And many people were second screening very quickly. And these were really creative agencies. But why is it when we come to measurement, we sometimes lose that gift that we all have? So those are the two things that we're going to try and fix. To tackle the first problem, we're investing heavily into the idea of relevance. Typically, PR people produce the stuff that we like to measure, which is messages and content. Sometimes we do go further and measure the stuff, or how the stuff will create change or affect change, but typically that's also a secondary consideration. We believe that creativity is effective in today's world if you can master the concept of relevance. You all know that we are bombarded with millions of messages every second over our lifetimes, and we've become experts at screening out all the stuff, the crap that we don't want to let in, stuff that is irrelevant to us, or we wish we could, and we do that in microseconds. But why do some brands manage to penetrate through these shields, and why do some ideas, and indeed people, stand the test of time, or the fickleness of time? We believe it's because of this, mastering the concept of relevance, and this is in its most simple form. So on the left, you kind of have what we're all trying to communicate, what we want to say. On the right, our poor audience, which is kind of, this is what I'm interested in. And here in the middle of this kind of Venn diagram of stones is what we're interested in, this idea of relevance. So what does that mean in a bit more depth? Well, relevance is the quality of a thing, a person, a message, or an idea, or brand even, that helps people find what they are searching for at the moment that they seek it. And that's the most critical part of this, at the moment. In today's world, and to be effective in today's world, this sense of timeliness is really, really important. To be relevant is to penetrate the shields that I talked about, that we put up to manage and keep out all the stuff that we don't want to ruin our lives. To be irrelevant is to fail to get through. The relevant thing or person is the thing that we allow in to occupy a place in our minds and lives. Often that's quite temporary, but we allow it in and we do something with it. And technology companies have known this for some time. Relevance is about anticipating what people are looking for rather than telling them. And I think that's something that PR people are naturally quite good at. A lot of what we're trying to do with relevance measures what tech firms have been doing for a few years now. Look at this from Google. By the second word, they already know that you're looking for Mary Had a Little Lamb, rather than them telling you something else, giving you the wrong information. So how can we in our industry try and act in that way? You might be asking, how is relevance different to trust, reputation, or brand love? And if anyone has children, Disney and Frozen is a big thing in my life at the moment. It's fair to say that outside of Russia, where he is very, very popular, Vladimir Putin is not trusted or beloved, but he is relevant. Understanding the dynamic, very dynamic measure of relevance, we believe is far more important than the static measures of trust or reputation in today's world. I trust the BBC an awful lot. I trust Sky News, I trust CNN. But if the story that's coming up next is not relevant to me, I'm going to flick over to the other channel. So what do we do when we find something, as people, what do we do when we find something relevant? Well, we listen to it. We allow it in at the very first level. We talk back to it, or often try to. We engage with it mentally, physiologically, sometimes spiritually, if anyone's into football, and move forward with it. We form an attachment to it that can be temporary or can be long-lasting. We are entertained or charmed by it. And we trust it a little, although not permanently, because I think that trust is many moments of relevance over time. And we experience a kind of an aha or eureka moment. It's like, oh, finally, this is something I connect with. And most importantly, and also referenced before, we often share our story of having found this thing that is relevant with others that we care about, which is the holy grail for us. Now, there are three things that we are interested in when it comes to relevance, or three things that we try and measure. And let me just go through those quickly, and then I'll show you an example of how this works. Firstly, prevalence, at its most basic. How many people find this thing, this person, this idea relevant? Literally, a scale. How high can we go? Then, intensity, hot or cold. How passionately engaged are the people with this thing? How passionately engaged with this idea or this person? How intense is it? And then the fingerprint. What does the quality of relevance look like? Why did these people find this thing or this idea relevant? Now, there is of course, there is a massive algorithm behind all this, which I'm not going to show to you because I wouldn't understand some of the symbols. But what I'd like to do is just simplify it and show you some of the application. There are 11 dimensions of relevance, which I will not go into all 11 now, but this beautiful animation clicks around and you can see some of them. And we measure all of these. So again, like some of the other speakers, we are investing an awful lot more in proprietary research, but not just kind of doing it once a year. We need to be more nimble because in today's world, your relevance can be from day to day or hour to hour, depending on what's going on, particularly in the news agenda. So, now that we have this idea of relevance, what are we going to do with it? Well, first of all, we're going to start talking, and this is the first occasion we've mentioned it on this stage, and thank you, Barry, for giving us this opportunity. But this is a warm-up for the weekend because we're going to Cannes, and I'll explain a little bit about that in the middle, which, as you know, is a creativity conference. It is not a measurement conference. But we managed to sneak it in on the agenda without them knowing, so don't tell them. Secondly, we're going to start showcasing this with clients, which we're doing immediately. And then message planning is very important. Embedding this into our strategic and creative planning process so that everything is built from the ground up. And then also channel planning. What are the most relevant media channels for a campaign or an idea to be more successful than not? And finally, this is the real hope for us, although we cannot claim it yet. We would like this to become a predictor for business change. And I think there's a lot of potential there, but maybe next year we'll come back and tell you if that's been the case or not. Anyway, so that was solving, hopefully, in our eyes, problem number one, which is that a lot of research that agencies produce looks back rather than gives clients the ability or brands the ability to look forward. The second one was about creativity. So as I said, we've managed to sneak this onto the Cannes agenda. And for those of you who don't know Cannes, just a few statistics. There are about 12,000 delegates, 35,000 award entries, the world's CEOs, CMOs there, all mashed up with some really fascinating speakers like Sir Jonathan Ive, Bono, who isn't that fascinating but a good musician, and Sheryl Sandberg. So this incredible space. And clearly presenting a white paper there was not going to cut it. We would get booed off stage very, very quickly. So we called up David Hasselhoff and asked for his help. And there's a teaser film, which I think we're going to play now, which gives you a little idea, and then I'll tell you what the treatment is.
People stand in the darkness, afraid to step into the light.
Jump in my car, I wanna take you home. Come on and jump in my car.
So that was a film about measurement. You may not have known. So what we're going to do is conduct a live experiment on stage with Icon the Hoff. With our command of the science of relevance, and we've done a whole load of research on him and other people, and co-creating with the people at Cannes, and there should be hopefully about 2,000 people in the room, we're going to try and create content real time based on the principles of relevance, and which is of course all about measurement. And can we build his brand in real time? Can we trend? What is the impact of the campaign? And there's loads of awesome prizes, like you can win dinner with the Hoff. But what we're hoping is that the people will leave, and we will hopefully make this point in the presentation, that the Hof is just a creative analogy for what you can do with brands. Is a way to get people awakened, and people will be able to come back and apply principles of measurement and relevance to their campaign. And there will be a lot of advertising people in the room, so it'll be interesting to see what their reaction is. So what could this data look like? Well, here is a cut of 80s heartthrobs, and anyone from America will know some of these people. I have no idea who this guy is. Dave, do you know who that is? He was in Charles in Charge, wasn't he? But anyway, so in the top right is Tom Selleck, who is very relevant right now because he has a film out. And you'll see that our star, David, is also in the top right quadrant, both measuring well on intensity and prevalence. But when you click to another country, things change very, very rapidly. And the Hof is still very relevant in Germany today. After all, he did bring down the Berlin Wall. And this is important for brands and clients because their relevance profile changes from market to market to market. People feel different about brands and how they want to engage with them. And this is a point we need to be able to make. Again, those 11 measures of relevance on the fingerprint that I talked about before, we can show what this looks like for people. The orange amoeba is David, and the white line is Tom Selleck. And again, you can see that people find David more entertaining in the US. He's self-deprecating, Tom less so. They find him more classic. Oddly, they find him more prestigious, which we didn't expect to see. But again, this changes when you look at different markets like Germany, where he has a far more relevant profile than a big Hollywood guy who's got a film out this year. And again, this is only just a foil for getting other people interested. Now, we are not an entertainment agency, and I doubt anyone in this room, I had a quick look through the list, is a celebrity publicist. But what you are doing, or what we're doing here with the Hof, you can apply to any brand in the world. And we have done some research on this, which we're going to be releasing in the next few weeks or so. So here's just a look at a couple brands that you all know, Dove and Nivea. And you will not be surprised to see that Dove is seen as more welcoming, and that the humanity relevance index is far, far higher than other brands as compared to Nivea. And again, this changes from market to market, and we're able to create campaigns based on the data that we're seeing. Now, this may be a case of playing to a brand's relevant strengths in certain markets, or it may be building an area where they're particularly weak, where they are relevant and have managed to land that particular attribute in other markets. And so balancing out a global campaign, very important. As I said, the Hof is just a creative analogy to any brand. I think if we can get the world's creative community, you guys obviously understand this is your profession, but if we can get the world's creative community, engaged in measurement, then AMEC will certainly be on the way to achieving its objectives. If you want to track our progress this weekend, the campaign goes live at 9 p.m. on Saturday, and we're on stage 10 a.m. on Sunday. Hofornot.com is the campaign site, and hashtag Hofornot will hopefully be trending around the world if we get it right on Sunday. In the meantime, thank you, Barry, very, very much for asking me to come, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Matt. Good luck next week. That's the important thing to say from us all. Who's got a question for Matt from what he was saying? Yes, please.
Dave.
Should I wait for the mic? First of all, I love this sort of stuff. It's the spider graphs and the shapes. It does help a lot. But among the characteristics of relevance, the word personal was not there. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, what I might do is bring in the author to come up on stage with me, Greg, to handle some of this. I'll bring them back up so that we can talk about. so that everyone just knows.
Greg, would you take the hand mic?
I will.
Thank you. And reintroduce yourself to everybody, please.
Sure. I'm Greg Sendy with Golan Harris. I lead our strategist community out of Chicago. And Dave, what you'll see is actually there are a number of these dimensions that sort of parse the idea of personal. In some sense, as we did some of the pre-experimentation with consumer research, what we were able to find is there's a way to subdivide the idea of personal engagement into dimensions like welcoming, for instance, or mystique, both of which express a personal connection, but in a slightly different way. So your point is really a good one, but what we tried to do was go a level even deeper than sort of this sense of personal connection. What are the elements or dimensions of a personal connection?
Thank you very much for the nice ideas. I just have rather an idea than a question. When you introduced a Venn diagram of stones and, in a sense, introduced spider graphs, I thought maybe it would be in a replication in the first sense that you just did it with two persons or two brands. But what I expect in the first sense was that you do it with the characteristics of the brand and what the consumers wanted. So just make a relevance check, make what the consumers expected of a brand like that, and on the other side, do check what the brand is about. So they have another point of referencing. And that I think what is relevance really about to get just the mixture of what the people want of the brand and what the brand has as characteristics. So maybe you can just do, they have another point of referencing if you just do these kind of stuff and not only just check it with two other brands or two other persons.
That's an excellent point as well, and there's a lot that hasn't been shown in this preview presentation. What you described is exactly that. So, when you are interested in the relevance of an automotive brand, for instance, it's a completely different set of criteria than a baby food or a diaper brand, right? And what you need to know, and in fact what we do know, but what hasn't been shown, is that there's an expectation fingerprint, and then there's a delivery fingerprint. And the point you just made is simply not part of this presentation, but information that we absolutely captured.
Time for one more, if anyone has a final question. Obviously, you have to be quite careful what you reveal today ahead of Cannes. Question on the front row, please. Again, please introduce yourself by name.
Thank you. Helen Dunberg, Retriever, Sweden. Matt, I have a question for you. I really liked what you said in the beginning. You were talking about we are a bit boring. And
I didn't mean you, I just meant we as an industry.
Yeah, but I think that that's something that is pretty important because I think all of us can say that maybe we could make a difference. So I really took it that way. But maybe you could just say something about that because I think sometimes that we need to change in the way we work. So just, your comment on that.
I think we need to convince stupid people like me to begin with. I think if I can get it, then I can communicate it to clients. As I said, many people in the creative industries are there because they are creative, or they're good communicators, or they're good at telling a story. They're not necessarily strong on data. I'm not a data geek, but I love this because I understand it. I can talk to it very simply, and we're able to compare and contrast how brands are performing, and we can. I think it's the foundation of really, really great creative work. But I think we are guilty of overcomplicating things. Often because in our agency, the smartest people in the agency work in our planning team. There's a couple of them over here, and Greg leads them. And often people in that community kind of talk to themselves, and they're very, very bright and they understand data. But many of our clients don't. Or we bombard them with so many facts and figures, and they're like, just tell me the points. What do I need to do? And this is back to Barry's point. What is actionable? Yeah, there's loads of data. In this world of big data, there's way too much. And we need to synthesize that down to 2 or 3 points that people can remember and then build work off the back of it. And in the first place, bring them to life. So the week after Cannes, we will hopefully have a beautiful case study around the Hof, and then we'll go and talk to Purcell or Omo about how that would apply to them. But I think they may not necessarily listen to us if we just went in with some hard data that they didn't find necessarily engaging.
Okay, we'll take one more. Wait for the mic, please, coming down.
Thanks, Matt. Colin Wheeler. The point I was actually going to make, it's kind of backing up what you just said, but translating what you're talking about in terms of us expressing content for a target audience of consumers or our client target audience. The point you're making about clients don't actually want a shed load of data, and they want to actually know the key points that come out of any piece of research or analysis. That's exactly the same thing. For them, the stuff that's relevant is, this is the things I need to know, these are the things I need to do. Everything else, they're functionally blind or deaf to.
Yes, couldn't agree more.
Okay, so our thanks to Matt and Greg. Please stay there, guys. Matt.